Hello friends, it's August 10th, 2017, and there's going to be a couple exciting things coming up within the next couple weeks. I don't know if she wants me to say yet, but I'm not going to tell you explicitly right now, but I can tell you for sure that I am going to be going out into the field with a very well-respected woman in the field of cryptozoology. She's also a dear friend of mine, an awesome person all around. She's just, I can't say anything high enough about her. She's so awesome. Love her. So there's that. And then this weekend, like I said, I'm going to go out to that pit bull face dog man sighting location. And I'm going to try to start up my laptop. But I'm going to go do a real investigation, following up with that video that I made, the one before the Mothman one, talking about that person I talked to, the musician, his sighting in I almost said the location, but it's close by, and it was a dog man encounter. It was a symbiotic mind meld situation, communicating mind to mind, and the dog man left him a present on a sleeping bag, and the dog man had a pit bull face. So all these things are very unusual. That's not typical. The only thing typical about that encounter is that the dog man was able to psychically speak to him. I can't fire up my laptop. It's probably dead, so I'm just gonna go into my email this way. I hope you guys are doing good. It's Thursday, so the weekend's already here. My daughter is at band right now, with the same teacher that I had, same band, same everything. And look at me now, I play the saxophone professionally. Let me turn down the brightness here real quick. Sorry, I know I'm not uber set up here with a professional studio, but that's okay. I'm going to get you professional results when I go out in the field, because I take this journalism thing very seriously. And the whole reason why I do this in the first place is one, for my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I want to represent him as imperfect as I am in this field, because there is no representation, hardly. There's me, Brenton, and JC that I know of, and Linda. She's a Christian too, but I'm like Jane the Baptist well, that's kind of, I don't know if that's blasphemous to compare myself to Jane the Baptist or John the Baptist, but he's not God, but I kind of feel like him, I can't shut up about stuff I'm passionate about. And then also, thirdly, I do this because this is a branch of science and journalism that is ignored and vilified on purpose. And on top of it, not only just all those things, but they're going to give you the wrong information on TV. The establishment has their paradigm that they force down your throat, and there's a reason for that. And I have lots of videos talking about that. But the simple thing is, they don't want you to know your potential, who you really are, that you are in fact made in the image of God. You have so much power at your potential as a human being. It's truly magic, and I'm talking about the real magic, not you asking favors to a demon or a spirit, like witchcraft. I'm talking about the power of God, the creativity, who you can be, who humanity could be if it were not for Satan wanting to lie to you, basically, and tell you that this phenomenon that I'm exploring is all all aliens or all this or all that. Life is a little bit more complicated than that. So, okay, I'm in my email. Let me find it. Oh, that's right. I got to do that. Okay. Okay. This is a very nice man who wrote to me last week on my Facebook. And he's been following JC's work, I think, before he found me, or he heard me on Vic Cundiff's show. either way, he's a really nice person. He's a Christian. His uncle had an encounter, and I'll change his name to Billy. This is a really terrifying encounter. When you see something outside or you have an experience, like, I'm kind of used to these things a little bit, but for a person who's lived their whole life and never had anything really weird happen to them, no ghosty stuff, no nothing, I can't imagine what life would be like without those things happening. But some people never go through life like that, and that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. But when you live your life like that and then something happens, like what I'm about to read to you, that rocks your world so friggin' hard. And you have to be a pretty strong person mentally and psychologically and spiritually to be able to handle certain things. So some people skate through life, and I'm not even talking about the paranormal right now, but some people skate through life with hardly any kind of conflict or any bad thing happening to them, and they're never strengthened. But a person who has great potential I see that all the pain that I've experienced in my life, I want to turn it around and help other people who are going through something similar and give them hope or something different. But if they're having a painful experience and they can't relate to anybody else because nobody around them could fathom that kind of trauma that they're in, pain that they're in, caused by death, abuse, rape, kidnapping, monsters, UFO abductions, all of these things, health scares, you cannot, you can pray for that person, you could be there for them, which is most of the time all a person needs. But unless you've been through something that is just kind of in the same realm, it's, you can't really relate. You can't say that I felt that way before. I felt that way before, and I know that to go on after several things happen to you in your life and to do what needs to be done and give of yourself and not take easy way outs, you have to be strong to do that. It's easier to give in and be like, well, look, XYZ happened to me, so now, fuck it, I'm just gonna indulge whatever it is I need to do to escape this pain, instead of taking the time to explain to my children or your children, or going to work in the morning, or not drinking all the time. You know what I'm saying? That's how a person evolves in this life, and that's how, after you've made peace with that part of you, you can go out and help other people now. And so it makes it all worth it. A person who's never gone through these things won't know that. They can be there for you, and they can pray for you, and they can love you and be your friend, and that's enough. But sometimes you just need to talk to somebody who understands what hell is like. Anyway, so this man, and I'm not saying that this man never went through anything, I'm not saying that, but he never saw a monster before. So let's continue on. I'll just start from the beginning. Hi, Jane. Well, I wanted to get around to share the story with you. I hope it's not too long, but I wanted to present it the way it was told me. A little background to start off. First off, I have to say that per my uncle's wishes, I can't divulge his name. A few years ago, he told me this story before he passed away to cancer. So he's saying, I'm going to kind of skip ahead, but he's the only person his uncle ever told this story to before, on his deathbed, pretty much, right? So that's when a person does that kind of thing, that they're not telling a lie. And second of all, he says his uncle was a stand-up man, a good man, a wonderful person, and that he only even shared the story with the person who wrote this to me because he knows that he was into that kind of topic. It's a person who goes through life, it's a working man, working person, doesn't care about this world. That's fine. But if it happens to you, you're not going to want to tell people about it, because to you sound like in your mind, you're like, oh, these people always sounded like freaking nuts, So now it happened to him. He's not going to just go around telling people like I do. I don't care what I look like anymore, because I've lived this life. But you know what I'm saying. Anyway, his whole life has been spent outside fishing, hunting, enjoying the outdoors. So he is no stranger to the outside world, camping and everything. He's been in the woods a lot, and he knows the difference between, this sound, that sound, tracking and hunting and all that. So after this, he went through a depression. After this encounter, it affected him profoundly, and I've heard that before. It usually, when a person has is a trauma, like any other trauma, it just throws everything. Your life is just mashed up. It's like someone took the snow globe, shook it up, and you're looking around and you just don't know anything anymore about anything. Everything you thought was true and safe and real is now gone, because you realize that not only does nature not care if you live or die. I found that out when I got flung out of a raft when I was whitewater rafting. I saw the power of the water, and I said to I was thinking, my life literally flashed before my eyes, and I was like, wow, I am so small, and this water doesn't care at all if I live or die. So, you just make these realizations, and it hits you hard. But anyway, so it was Saturday that the story was told. Or no, that this happened 10/20/2012. So he's even got the date down, which is pretty cool. So 10/20/2012, between the hours of 4 and 5 a.m., my uncle, who we will call Bill, was deep in an area that he used to often hunt deer. The only people who know this sweet spot, as he called it, was his best friend and his son. He was alone, which was often the case with Bill. Times in the past, he has come afoul of bobcats, and on more than one occasion a mountain lion, although many around that area like to say no such animal would be there. Bill knew different, as such was properly armed. He was quite adept at bagging deer, but this morning turned out to be one of those dry ones. He told me that at a certain point he noticed something that in all his years of being in the mountains he had never experienced. Nothing. Just that. Nothing. That's a horrifying experience, to go out into the woods and then all of a sudden hear all the chatter of all the crickets and all the birds and everything just stop. That's horrifying. I've been there. That was just the beginning of my horrifying experience, one of them. So that happened to him. No animal sounds, no nature talking. It was more than quiet, and it struck him odd, but he just shrugged it off. So around 15 minutes after taking notice of the lack of noise, he heard snapping sounds, as if someone was stepping on twigs and dry foliage. It came from his left side, which at what he guessed was around 30 feet down. This area was not somewhere that is frequented by people at all. It alarmed Bill enough for that reason that he had a firm grip on his rifle. Truth be told, you never know what kind of individual you might run into as deep as he was, although he never had seen signs of anyone in this area before. So he sat and waited and watched through his night vision scope, as it was still very dark. After a few more minutes, the sounds became much more frequent and took the pattern of what he soon would know were definite footfalls. It occurred to him at this point that the sounds were very heavy and pronounced. Having the decades of experience that he has, he could tell this was someone extremely heavy doing this. Still, as he told me, never at any point, at this point still, he had even for a second thought the word Bigfoot. He just thought it was somebody out there, a guy. So he decided to let out a whistle. He did this to alert whomever this was that someone was here. So thinking it was probably another hunter, most surely he would expect a response of sorts. But once he whistled, the sounds of the footfalls stopped. And he waited, and he heard no sounds, response or otherwise. So to say he was unnerved at this point was obvious. However, Bill has always been quite capable and as tough as they come. As he then took another look through his night scope in the direction of the sounds, he tells me it was at this moment he first saw it. Coming out of a thick patch of brush between two large trees was what he first thought was a large black bear. He could see it was big and covered in hair. It took him a few seconds to realize what he was really looking at. From his vantage point, he could see it from the thighs up, and this thing was standing, looking directly at his direction. It must be noted that Bill was in a crouched hiding position at this time. It was still dark, and he was barely even breathing, yet this creature was looking directly at him. He could see it fairly clearly in his scope. He believes he was in shock since he was seeing what it was, but yet his brain didn't catch up and register in real time exactly what it was he was seeing. Very typical. You're not wired to see this kind of thing. Your brain is not wired to see this. He remembers seeing the air puffing from his nostrils as it panted heavily. At this point, he tells me that he wrestled with the notion to shoot. Fear definitely came into play. As he said, every instinct he has told him that he was out there hunting. The tables were now turned in regard to this creature. He was not the apex predator anymore. He noticed that the thing then crouched down almost like a football player would and seemed to sway from side to side. He swears that he thinks it was preparing to lunge in his direction. Bill decided to try and spook it off by shining a flashlight at it. It was then he saw the color of its hair, rust reddish brown. I've seen it. As well, to me that seems to be like the most common color up here anyway. As well as the fact that its teeth were showing and what he doubted was a smile. In a quick movement, it stood up, let out a deep baritone growl as it feigned its left arm over its face. But Bill realized fully what he was seeing, and his fear doubled as he then fired off a shot into the air. The creature turned and plowed back into the brush. He said he could still remember the sounds of the footfalls stomping through the forest as it ran. Without hesitation, Bill backed out of his spot and made his way quickly, but always in a backing fashion, back to where his Jeep was. He wasted no time going home. He admitted that he sat in his Jeep and cried for well over an hour before entering his home. And this was obviously so uncharacteristic for him. I'd like to make known that Bill had not been drinking whatsoever. He left the bottle behind many years ago, as well as many other kinds of old habits. So he was saying that it was he's making other notes for me to share. It was 8.5 feet, he figured, because his uncle said that this man who's writing me is 6.5 feet tall, so his uncle was like, it was 2 feet taller than you at least. So it must have, he's estimating at 600 pounds. It was so broad, he was saying, that it was almost incomprehensible. That's the one thing about it. And although he has never seen it from the thigh down, he said it was like an upside down pyramid, the shape of his body. He didn't recall any stench. He was a bit upwind though. So he told me he told me that after thinking about the incident over and over, he felt that he was seeing was one of two or more because of the way it acted. He felt in hindsight as a distraction for something he couldn't place. As a hunter, he felt that, as stated earlier, the tables were turned. So he feels like there's a group of them. So after showing him a ton of drawings and photos, this guy who was writing me, he was showing his uncle some drawings and photos. He told me that he saw one. His uncle said it looked like it was a cross between Mayaka skunk ape and a cross between that and a Neanderthal. So that growl hit his chest, reverberated inside his ribcage, which happens a lot. And yeah, so that's his story. I thank you very much for sharing with me. That's awesome. We got to collect this data and we got to share it because the establishment won't. They're just going to tell us BS. So we as a people, now that this information age can and do, will share this information, and I'm going to try, I do intend and I do this, but it's the scientific method. You get your hypothesis, you get data, you collect it, and then you just simply record, That's about it. I do insert my opinion about what I think these creatures are, what I think that they are, but I do collect the evidence in a journalistic and unbiased fashion. So I'm not going to go out there and try to insert my, anything, because first of all, that would be pointless anyway. But okay, so I'm going to go this weekend, and God willing, if it doesn't rain or anything, and then I will make another report. I'm going to film, I'm going to take document footage and all sorts of things, and maybe I'll just do a live thing there. We'll see. At any rate, God bless. Take care. See you later.